Hey guys, so if you can't tell already, we're going to be talking all about brows today. I'm not only going to show you how I sculpt them, but I'm also going to show you how I groom them. So if you want to see how to get these brows, just stay tuned. Yikes, that is a close up, alright. And it is not pretty, but we're going to work with it. I'm doing this for you guys. So the first thing I want to do is just take a spoolie to the brows and really brush out the hairs so that they're not in the way, because now I'm going to go in with some concealer on the back of my hand per usual, but this time I'm going to take my definer brush, my 221 Luxie, not to highlight or conceal, but to actually map and carve out exactly where I want to remove any hairs. So anywhere I put concealer on, I'm gonna pluck any hairs out of those areas. As you'll be able to see on the top right, I use this popular method to figure out where I want to start, where I want the arch, and where I want my brow to end. Sometimes you might find it even easier if you just brush some of the hair up, that way it's not on the way. You'll see me do it with the second brow as well. You can even add some concealer on the sides so you know exactly where to pluck hairs away there too. Now we're just going to move on to plucking away. So anywhere I have concealer pretty much, I'm going to go in and pluck any hairs on those areas. Since I'm using concealer, I find it really helpful if I take my finger and smudge a little bit at a time so I'm able to see the smaller hairs as well. So I just smudge and pluck until I don't see any more hairs in the area where we added concealer. Next, what I like to use is an eyebrow razor, and I believe I get these at Target and they're fairly inexpensive, but I want to say that if you are going to try this at home, be extremely careful. I like to use my finger as a guide, and then I just blade up right where we put the concealer. I find this gives me a nice shape right there, but I really only do it at the very beginning of my brows, a little bit on the middle just to take some more of the hair out, and on the sides. Now on to the very last step for grooming. I just take the spoolie and brush the hairs up. And with some small scissors, starting at the arch, I'm going to go ahead and cut in an angle any extra long hairs. And don't worry about that brow, that's my trouble brow, so it's not going to look great, but we're going to make it work once we fill it in. But there you have it. That is my groomed brows. Now on to the fun part, filling these bad boys in. Just taking some Anastasia Beverly Hills pomade in medium brown and her number 7 brush, which is just an angled brush with a spoolie, and putting that on the back of my hand. This will remove a lot of the excess product from the brush and also leave some product so that we can go back into. I start by making a line across the top of the brow, really starting to create that arch. You'll see I take my time and I go back into it and add more product as I see fit. Then adding a line along the bottom and connecting the tail of the brow. Then filling the brow in and taking the spoolie to not only move the product around, but make that product appear more hair-like. So I'm just going to add more until I really like the shape of the brow. Now for the start of the brow, I like to create a kind of a light line and then go upward motion just in the direction of the hair. You'll see that I go back in with the spoolie as well. I like the front to be as light as possible, so I try to keep a light hand towards the front and then I go a little darker towards the back. It really just takes time to really get that exact shape that you want, so just play around with it. I mean, you can see even me, it takes me a while to do. But now moving on to the next brow, I'm really just going to speed past through most of this because this one, like we talked about, it's my trouble brow. I always have the hardest time with this brow, but I promise you, we are not alone if you have the same issue, because brows, I once heard, they are sisters. They are not twins. So they're never gonna look exactly the same, but you know what? We're gonna try our best to make them look as even as possible. So this one definitely takes a lot more work than the other brow. Last but not least, of course, we're gonna go in with our definer brush and some concealer to really clean those brows up. I find this step essential, mostly for this brow right here. It just makes such a huge difference. And I just take my finger to blend that product out so there's no harsh lines. And you'll see that I add a little bit more product on this brow, so I'm gonna go back to the other brow and add a little bit more just to make them look even. And then I'm gonna take some foundation with this brush right here, and it's just an e.l.f. brush, and I'm gonna define the top. I don't find this necessary, but if you really want super bold brows, that will give it to you. And adding foundation instead of concealer is gonna help them look nicer as well. Alright guys, so that completes this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I'll see you next time.